So what are the real costs associated with buying a home? How much cash should you have on hand before you start house hunting? Are there any hidden costs you should know about when it comes to buying a home? In this video, I'll aim to answer all of these questions and arm you with the facts. My name is Phil Wells. I'm a real estate agent serving clients in and around Spokane. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into the actual costs of buying a home here in Spokane, using real-life examples from past clients of mine. So let's get into it. Firstly, I wanted to start with a little bit of myth-busting and some good news. It costs you nothing to be represented by a professional real estate agent such as myself during the process of buying a home. The industry standard is that a seller will offer a commission to a listing agent to sell their house. That agent will then split that commission with a buyer's agent. So you get the peace of mind knowing that you have a professional on your side guiding you through the process, without having to worry about racking up costs with them representing you. I don't know how many times I've got to the end of a phone call with someone looking at buying a home and they ask me at the end of the conversation, usually quite awkwardly, so how much does it cost to work with you? And the answer, in my market at least, it might be different elsewhere, is nothing. So that's a positive note to start on. Let's look at some actual costs that you will have to pay. We're going to explore these costs in the order that they'll appear for you throughout the buying process. The first you'll already be aware of is the down payment. In reality, this isn't a cost at all because it doesn't get paid to someone. It goes into your home as equity until you liquidate it. However, it is money that you'll have to bring to the closing table, so it's well worth exploring in this video. During your pre-approval process, you will have discussed how much you'll need to put down along with your credit and your debt to income ratio in order to qualify for the house that you want. If you're new to the process and you haven't yet gone through the pre-approval process, there are some misconceptions out there that you need to pay more in terms of a down payment than you might actually think. Most people believe you need 20% down in order to qualify for a mortgage. That really isn't true. I've worked with VA buyers who put nothing down. I've worked with conventional buyers who put 3% down, who put 5% down, 10% down, yes, and even 20% down. It really depends on you and what your lender can do. So the key is to explore these options with your lender and see what works best for you. So on to the next cost. Once you get your property under contract, you'll likely want to inspect the home so you'll understand all the issues that are present in the home. The home inspection itself will cost you anywhere from $300 to $500. And this is dependent on the property size, the type of the property, and the location sometimes also. There are also add-on inspections you may wish to perform at the same time your home inspection is going on. These are things like the sewer scope and a radon test. Don't be tempted to forego these additional tests just because you're looking at a newer home. I have seen major sewer issues and high radon readings in homes built within the last decade or two. Another cost you may wish to factor in is the need for an additional inspection. Now what I mean by this is during your initial home inspection, the inspector may flag something that needs more investigation by a specialist. And these specialists may charge a consultation fee for coming out and giving you their opinion. For example, a structural engineer will almost certainly charge you for their time, whereas an electrician may inspect the work and bid on the job for free. Overall, personally, I would set aside about $1,000 for your inspection. You may end up spending only half of that, and that's great, but it's nice to have cash in reserve. Next, let's look at the appraisal. Your lender will want to make sure that the home you're buying is worth what you've offered for it, so that they can be comfortable that it's good collateral for the loan. In order to do this, the lender will require that you pay for a professional appraisal. This runs around $750 in Washington state, but again, it may vary depending on the location, the type of property, the size of the property, and so on and so forth. There are also rushed fees that you can pay for an appraisal in order to get that appraisal back sooner and close sooner. These tend to run around $100 to $250, but again, it depends on your appraiser. Occasionally, an appraiser will require a reinspect. For example, if they require work to be conducted before they can issue the appraisal report. This will also incur a fee, as you can imagine, and it's usually $100 to $200. Sticking with the theme of appraisals, I wanted to touch on appraisal gap provisions here. In a competitive market, you may find it beneficial to include an appraisal gap provision in your offer. This is an amount that you offer to the seller to plug some of that gap should an appraisal gap arise. You should consider this money to be on top of your down payment and on top of your closing costs. This amount varies, but obviously the more you put down, the more competitive you'll be. The last one I wrote into a contract was a $12,500 appraisal gap for a $525,000 property, but I've done appraisal gap provisions as low as $2,500 and as high as $40,000. Now I wanted to look at all the costs and fees that make up a bundle of costs we call closing costs. We'll do this by taking a look at a few different settlement statements from previous clients of mine. Obviously, to protect my client's privacy, I have blacked out a lot of information on here, but it should still be a valuable exercise. Okay, looking first at a settlement statement for a conventional purchase. Obviously, I've blacked out any identifying features like dates and prices and names and things like that. But you can see here the first item on here, $10,000, that is a earnest money amount. First real charge here, we've got some county taxes to pay. Moving on to the lender charges, we've got processing fees, underwriting fees, credit report fees, flood certification, MERS, which is the electronic system that all loans are uploaded to, tax service fee, and some prepaid interest. Looking now at impounds, these are things like homeowners insurance and property taxes. These are impounded by the escrow company on behalf of the lender, so that the lender is certain that these things are actually going to get paid. Looking now at some other fees, we've got a recording fee here of $422, and now moving on to some title charges. We've got various different types of title charge here, you can read them all. Lastly, under miscellaneous charges, we've got a homeowners insurance policy. And that's really it. It's honestly quite simple. The bulk of the charges, as you can see, are title charges and loan charges on this settlement statement. Looking quickly at one really simple settlement statement, this was a cash buyer. There they have some county taxes to pay, a recording fee, and some title charges, and that's it. Now, with different types of loans, you're going to see different kinds of charges. For example, with an FHA, you'll pay FHA mortgage insurance, known as a mortgage insurance premium of about 1.75%. So you'll see that there on your statement. And if you're purchasing using a VA loan, you'll likely see a VA funding fee unless you qualify not to have to pay this. Other than that, a lot of the fees are very much the same. Those settlement statements cover most of the typical costs and fees you'd expect to find in your settlement statement. However, for a more exhaustive list, I would encourage you to check out this article by Rocket Mortgage. One of the things people tend to worry about is utilities and taxes. Are there any unpaid utility bills or unpaid taxes that you're going to get saddled with when you close? Well, no. A competent agent should check this box on the initial contract, meaning that all those sorts of charges are the seller's responsibility and are to be paid by the seller prior to closing. In theory, you could not check this box and say assumed by buyer, and use it as a kind of negotiation technique, but I've not seen that used. It would be kind of an odd thing to do. Now you have a really thorough understanding of the costs involved in buying a home, but you probably really just want a quick ballpark way of figuring out how much it's going to cost to buy you a home. Am I right? Okay, imagine you have two pots of money to make up your cash to close. One pot is your down payment. The down payment amount you should have already figured out with your lender, and that shouldn't be a surprise to you. The second pot of money is the closing costs, and that's what we just went over with the settlements. You can use a rule of thumb of 3% here to estimate these closing costs. A good lender should be able to give you what's called a good faith estimate at the start of the loan process, so you can get a slightly more accurate idea of where those closing costs are going to land in terms of actual dollars. Now, I did just mention two pots, but there might be a third pot in the name of the appraisal gap provision should you wish to include one with your offer. I can't really give you a ballpark percentage or dollar amount here, unfortunately, because it's so dependent on the property itself and your market. Like I said earlier, I have used appraisal gaps all the way from $2,500 to $40,000 in the last year, so it really does depend. Just know that this amount would form a third pot of money that you'll need to bring in addition to your down payment and your closing costs at the closing table. That's it for this video. You now have a really good insight into what's an under-discussed and often opaque subject matter. I hope you gained from this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. That really does help me out. If you're looking at buying and selling in the Spokane area, please give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, and I'd be honored to work with you. Until the next one, my name's Phil Wells, and thank you for watching.